Get ready to be inspired by the great things happening in rural education. The Rural Scoop will bring you new ideas and innovative solutions. We'll dive into education issues and we'll highlight what's working in your rural communities. You'll hear from a variety of educators, administrators, professionals, and others who will provide relevant and engaging content in each episode. And now, serving up the scoop, here's your host, Dr. Melissa Sadorf.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rural Scoop. As always, I'm thrilled to be bringing you stories and insights and meaningful conversations that really spotlight the incredible work that's happening in rural communities across Arizona and beyond. So today, we have a truly special guest that's joining us, Julie Sainz from the Arizona State Board of Regents. Julie is a passionate advocate for education, especially in supporting students as they navigate pathways to higher education. She's here to talk about a topic that's vital for so many of our rural students and their families, FAFSA, which stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So whether you're a parent, an educator, or a community member, this conversation will offer some valuable insights into how FAFSA opens doors for students, dispels common misconceptions, and then connects rural Arizona to opportunities that can change lives. So, Julie, welcome to the Rural Scoop. It's really an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I really appreciate the opportunity to share about FAFSA and all the great work that we're doing at the Arizona Board of Regents.
Well, fantastic. So let's start by having you introduce yourself to our listeners and sharing a little bit about your background and what drew you to this very important work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as mentioned, my name is Julie Sainz. I am the Director of FAFSA and College Access Initiatives at the Arizona Board of Regents. I've been with the board for close to 4 years now. I am a native Arizonan, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and a product of Phoenix Union High School District. Very proud to say that. And also attended Arizona State University as well. So proud Sun Devil there too. I have been in higher education for close to 16 years now. So really started off at the higher ed admissions level. Within the university systems, I have worked as a financial aid director within Glendale Community College. And then I've also worked in various student affairs positions. And then most recently, before I came onto the board, I was with the Arizona Commission for Post-Secondary Education, which was a small state agency that housed all of the FAFSA efforts before it transitioned over to the Board of Regents. So with that, just really involved in FAFSA. My passion is helping students pursue their education. I myself am a product of what FAFSA can do. It helped me complete my degree going to ASU. It definitely opened doors to be able to afford a college education, knowing that the price is getting higher every year. It's something that I want to be able to communicate to students to let them know that it opens doors to be able to pay for college. So with that, this work has just been a passion of mine to expand statewide and to get the word out about this form and how it can change and transform a student and help out their family as well.
You are definitely in the right job right now to be able to do that work. So how exciting for you that everything is coalesced into this position and you're able to even be a bigger influence on what's happening at the state level.
Absolutely. It's a dream. It's really not work. It's a passion. And it's fun to be able to work with an amazing team at the board and have such great leadership and all of our regents be supportive of these FAFSA efforts.
So let's jump into what FAFSA is and why is it so important for students in Arizona?
Yeah, so FAFSA, I always tell people it's a funny word. Hardly anybody could pronounce it or they pronounce it incorrectly with the acronym, but FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So it is a federal form that the U.S. Department of Education manages, and it's really for students and families to apply to financial aid to see what type of aid that they're eligible for. So I always tell students, when you complete your FAFSA, you're not obligating yourself to any type of aid. It's really to give you options to see what you're eligible for. So that way you can choose and see, which type of aid that I'm eligible for that I'd like to utilize to pursue a higher education. Another thing is that the FAFSA form is for students who are looking to complete a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, certificate program. So there's a lot of folks out there also that think that FAFSA is just for student loans, but it's not. There's federal grants, there's work study. Also, in addition to student loans, there's also many scholarships that require the FAFSA on file. So it does open the door to so much more than just student loans, but obviously those grants, even state grants, work study that allows a student to have a job on campus or off campus to be able to pay for their college or other expenses. And then also, again, just mentioning that, those scholarships a lot of times require the FAFSA on file as well.
So there are quite a few misconceptions about FAFSA, meaning you don't have to do a 4-year degree. And when I first heard about the program, I didn't know that either. So what are those common misconceptions that the Board of Regents is addressing? And how do they affect those participation rates of students applying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think within Arizona, there's a lot of across the board, across the nation, there's a lot of misconceptions, but just being able to travel to different high schools as part of my position, speaking with families, one of the common ones that I find is that FAFSA is only for low-income families, which discourages a lot of our middle-income families from applying because they think they're not going to qualify for any aid. So it's really letting them know that FAFSA does not have an income cutoff. FAFSA is available for all students, and it lets you know exactly based off of your income or your family's income what you may be eligible for. So we always tell students, even if you think your family makes too much money, whatever that amount is, please still complete the FAFSA application. Also, additionally, some families think that it's only for, as you mentioned, if a student's looking to go to a university, that the FAFSA doesn't cover, a community college or cover a certificate program or a trade school. So that is, again, another misconception. If your student wants to go into welding, if they want to go into medical assisting, and they're not looking to get a 4-year degree or even a 2-year degree, they just want to get a certificate program, it's still completing the FAFSA application is really one of the first steps to see if it can help pay for college, whether that be whatever type of route that you want to go into, a certificate, vocational, trade school, or eventually go into a 4-year university to get your bachelor's degree.
So, Julie, would you say that there is a difference between misconceptions in urban and rural communities, or is it just across the board?
I would say it's definitely across the board. But I think there's a lot of in rural communities and just in Arizona in general, we have a lot of first generation students. So all those first generation students don't necessarily have somebody in their family guiding them to say, I completed the FAFSA, I got my certificate program with this, or I got my associate's degree with this, or bachelor's degree. It's students really relying on a teacher, a counselor, a trusted individual in their high school or within their community that can help guide them. And really in rural communities, I think one of the great things is that there is a smaller, close-knit community. So there is that teacher who's also the counselor, who's also, playing other roles within the school. If they're informed on what FAFSA is, and if they can help navigate that process with the student, I think it's really beneficial since they're able to have those conversations as opposed to a larger school with, say, 800 to 900 students. I think that's definitely an advantage of rural community, having that close knit. But I think in general, Arizona, we need to build that college going culture so that we have those students going to college that can guide their younger siblings or guide a cousin or a friend who may be going through that process. That way we have that knowledge that's passed down from generation to generation as they're going and pursuing their education.
Now, you mentioned some things that were not the typical, I'm thinking about a grant that's going to pay for a university or a community college. What else does FAFSA do to benefit students beyond just that federal financial aid?
Absolutely. So beyond federal financial aid, specifically in Arizona, we do have the Arizona Promise Program. So the Arizona Promise Program covers tuition and fees for any high school senior that qualifies for the Promise Program to be able to cover their tuition and fees at any of our 3 state institutions, ASU, NAU, or U of A. So part of the Promise Program, students do have to complete the FAFSA application and be Pell eligible. And it can be any Pell Grant eligibility amount as long as they are eligible for the Pell Grant. So that is another reason why we're really stressing to students to complete the FAFSA, because not only is it opening doors for different types of federal aid, but it's also that state aid like the Promise program. Also, again, as mentioned, many scholarships require the FAFSA on file as well, whether it's a private scholarship or just a general scholarship from an organization that will require that FAFSA application. So even if you don't want to take any federal aid, and you just want to see if you qualify for the Promise program or if you qualify for a certain scholarship, it opens the doors to so much more than just that federal aid opportunity there. But we always try to tell students, when you complete the FAFSA program, all these doors open to you. So you have several options, whether it be federal, whether it be a scholarship, or whether it be the Promise program. Or if you're looking to go out of state, some states require it for their own acceptance or admissions processes. So just be really clear on, the different guidelines and what's required depending on what institution that you're choosing to attend.
Mm-hmm. Good advice. So what unique challenges do students in Arizona face when they're completing these FAFSA applications?
Yeah, so just kind of going back to that first generation, again, I think Arizona faces a unique challenge that we have so many first generation students completing the form. So again, it's being unaware of the process, not quite sure knowing how important this application is. Also, when we look at our rural communities in Arizona, there's many that don't have internet. There's many that don't have those resources to be able to complete the application as somebody in a Metro Phoenix area would to access Wi-Fi. So I think those are unique challenges there that Arizona faces, especially in our rural and tribal communities. Also, we have Arizona has a large population of mixed status families. So that is where the student has a social security number, but maybe the parent doesn't. So there's a lot of, especially now, uncertainty about how to report that parental information. And sometimes it can create confusion or discourage a student from applying. So it's really trying to bring that awareness to those students, it's exactly what their options are. And that way they can make that decision or choice to be able to complete the application. Mm-hmm. And then in regards to lack of internet or lack of resources, it's really trying to connect those resources to those communities. And then again, kind of the overarching thing there is just building out that college going efforts for those first generation students so that they know the process. And since the FAFSA application every year that you're in college, you have to complete it. It's not a one and done type of application. It's something that a student does before they enter. They do it freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. So it's a repeated process, annual process that they're completing. So as long as they can get their feet wet with that first process, and then the next year when they renew it, they feel more confident doing so, knowing that it helped them pay for college that first year.
When you talk about some of those rural areas that have some unique challenges, what have you seen communities do to assist those students that really have those barriers and give them a chance to overcome them? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, specifically for rural communities with lack of internet or resources, we have done a lot of partnerships to be able to provide transportation to those students and families or stipends so that they could go to a workshop closest to them at a community center or a library that has those internet resources. Also, we have partnered with a lot of our partners within our Arizona FAFSA Coalition, which is made up of our institutions, our state institutions, our community colleges, college access partners, the governor's office as well, to be able to provide hotspots for internet for these communities as well. And then also just provide direct outreach and support to them. In regards to our mixed status families, we have really done partnerships and outreach with organizations such as Aliento to be able to communicate what the pros are to FAFSA and how that could outweigh some of the discouraging thoughts that they may have as to applying or providing their families information on the form. So it's really been partnering and partnerships that have been the most effective to be able to communicate and scale this information statewide, relying on trusted partners who are within the community, really relying on counselors, teachers, and educators to communicate this, knowing that they are kind of the grassroots efforts and those who are speaking with students every day. So making sure that we're all on the same page, just to know that the student has those resources available, and also making sure that us at the Arizona Board of Regents know what the challenges are so that we can work with our community partners to see how we can help resolve and partner to make things easier for students to be able to complete the form.
So I think that most of us that were in education a while have been very familiar with the FAFSA challenges in the last couple of cycles. So how has FAFSA improved compared to last year's very large federal challenges?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone had read in the news or, saw in some type of newspaper all the challenges that were happening in last year's FAFSA cycle. There were tons of technical glitches, data delays, the application rolled out later, so students had a shorter window to complete it, if they were even able to complete it. So I'm happy to report this year has been a lot smoother. I'm also happy to report that the Arizona Board of Regents was fortunate to participate in the U.S. Department of Education's FAFSA beta testing that happened earlier this fall. So as part of that beta testing, we partnered with 13 high schools throughout the state, and we tested the FAFSA application with close to 1,000 high school seniors within those schools. So that way they could test out the FAFSA, make sure there weren't any technical glitches, make sure that their parents were able to complete the form successfully. We also tested out the language to make sure that there wasn't anything in the FAFSA application that could be confusing when they were completing it on the student or parent side, and just the overall process to make sure that it was seamless so that students and families could complete it. And I think it really helped develop that trust again with the form, and also with Department of Education, because last year, especially with, counselors and tutors, they had saw all the technical glitches. For the students, they didn't know because it was their first time completing it. So they had no idea all the troubles that happened the year prior. But I'm just happy to report that we were able to successfully complete that testing. We did have tons of recommendations from students how to make it easier that we reported up to Department of Education, and many of those were implemented. But I think really for this year, our numbers show that, the FAFSA form is easier this year to complete. It is actually the better FAFSA form, which it was supposed to be last year. So we're definitely, positive and optimistic. And just looking at our data right now, we are close to 16% of our high school seniors have completed the FAFSA form. And if you look the previous year in April, which was 4 months after the FAFSA came out, we were at 18%. Oh, wow. So it shows you such a jump in numbers and so many more students being able to access the form without any technical glitches or things beyond their control that they were able to, weren't able to complete the form.
Were there any specific tools or resources during that updating process that you find particularly were helpful, especially for rural families, but just any family in general?
Yeah, I think we did testing with Holbrook High School. So we were able to get some really great feedback from many of them in order to create some, not only from them, but also other 12 schools that we participated as well, just resources and handouts that we could create at the A-board level to be able to hand that out to students to help guide them through the process. So we uploaded all that information on collegereadyaz.com. So any students, families, educators, basically anybody completing the FAFSA form can go to collegereadyaz.com, access those resources. And they really are supplemental resources that we found during the beta testing that could help guide a student or parent through the FAFSA application. And we have those available in both English and Spanish on that website.
So, Julie, you talked about first-gen students, but there are other factors besides being a first-generation student, like income or language barriers that can affect FAFSA completion rates in Arizona. Talk a little bit about how that has an impact.
Absolutely. Language barriers are also a hurdle. So Arizona does have a large population of non-English speaking families who may struggle with the complexity of the form. The form does have some questions on it that can be a bit confusing, not only if you speak English, but if you speak another language, it can be confusing as to what it's asking. But the FAFSA form this year, they do have a Spanish version as well. So when a student or parent's creating an FSA ID, they can choose their option to be English or Spanish. And that way their communication from the U.S. Department of Education can come in either language. Also, the FAFSA form this year, U.S. Department of Education released a number of FAFSA supplemental guides in various languages, not only Spanish, but they have Italian, French, Tagalog, Vietnamese. There's a number of support resources that they have created this year specifically to help students and families who may speak another language. Also, I think in regards to income, which you had mentioned, it's really about trying to build that awareness that the FAFSA is available to all students. There's no income cutoff. And I think for that, U.S. Department of Education may have heard that because they actually created a tool that's an estimator. So a student or family can go into this estimator before they complete the FAFSA application, key in some estimated income, and that way they can see exactly what their student or themselves may be eligible for with the FAFSA. So it is a great tool that we at AWAR and through our FAFSA coalition share with students and families who may be on the fence about completing the FAFSA, especially if they think they make too much, they're not going to qualify for grants. This tool is available again on collegereadyaz.com. It's also through the U.S. Department of Education websites as well. But it provides a great resource to be able to plug in some, estimated numbers and see where you may fall as a family, to see if you qualify for things other than student loans. It could look at federal Pell Grants. It could look at work study or other aid available. And it's been a great resource this year, I think, to help debunk that myth, because when a student and family inputs their information, it's not just somebody telling them that they could qualify. They're actually seeing it themselves with their estimated income numbers.
Yep. So you mentioned a number of things that the Board of Regents is doing to reach out to rural communities, especially where that outreach is necessary. Is there anything else that you want to bring to light? And then following up on that, what kind of feedback are you using to measure the success of those outreach efforts?
Absolutely. So the Arizona Board of Regents, one of the ways that we are trying to reach out more to rural communities is for the past couple of years, we have run a FAFSA peer coach program. So this peer coach program started off with 24 high schools. We're now at 40. But it's really to have your high school seniors act as FAFSA champions. We know, looking at research, peer-to-peer model is one of the most successful ways to have students learn about something or to complete an application, especially if it's college going, because they may feel more comfortable talking with a classmate as opposed to speaking with a counselor or teacher, especially depending on that student's certain situation. So with the FAFSA Peer Coach program, we have an advisor who's a counselor or a teacher on campus who oversees their team of peer coaches. And they really help elevate and promote and supplement the work that the high school is doing to promote FAFSA and have those one-on-ones and supports to be able to have those FAFSA workshops, to promote it on social media, to promote it on their own personal social media as well, since sometimes the students have a greater reach than maybe the high school page. So with that, we are really looking this fall to expand it to more rural schools, particularly in northern and eastern Arizona. And just because we see a lot of schools that have asked for direct supports that may not be working with another college access organization on FAFSA. So they have expressed to us, and we have been in talks with them. And we're really excited to be able to expand it to those rural schools to try out this program. And knowing with many of the rural schools, there's a smaller senior population a lot of times than our Metro Phoenix schools. So we really feel like that one-on-one FAFSA peer coach support will be really effective, knowing that it's a smaller class size, it's a smaller close-knit community that can come together. And these FAFSA peer coaches can be champions to encourage their fellow classmates to complete the application or just really spread awareness in their community about what FAFSA is and the different resources available. In addition, Arizona Board of Regents, we also have a number of FAFSA resources. Students can make virtual appointments to complete their FAFSA with a one-on-one FAFSA expert. We have a FAFSA hotline where students can call in if they have any questions. And then one of our partners also has Ask Benji, which is a texting FAFSA chatbot. that students can text into. So really with those, we're trying to amplify those resources. We're adding more direct support to our virtual appointments so that we can scale those more and promote them within the rural communities. And then in addition, we are also working to host some more in-person FAFSA workshops in rural communities, knowing that those are really what moves the needle, having that direct one-on-one in-person support. So we are working this spring in order to coordinate those throughout different counties within the state so that we can have them available to students and families on a weekend or evening to come out and get that direct support to complete the FAFSA application.
So can you share any of those success stories from the schools or districts that you're working with that really have moved the needle, as you said, on that FAFSA participation?
Absolutely. I think one of the schools we always mention is San Luis High School in Yuma. They have done just phenomenal work in increasing their FAFSA completion rates. They have continuously been our reigning champions in our Arizona FAFSA Challenge, which is our statewide program that we have to encourage FAFSA completion and highlight best practices that high schools are doing. We reward them with a trophy every year, but they just do phenomenal work. And I think that's because they have built that college-going culture. They have, even though they're a large school, with a large senior class size, they have those one-on-one conversations with students. They have built partnerships with their post-secondary institutions. And they're all invested from the, high school teacher to the janitor to the counselor, all the way up to the superintendent in FAFSA completion and college-going work. So I think they've been made tremendous strides in that. Also, Nogales High School has done some amazing things, some creative campaigns that have been really great to focus on FAFSA completion. And then if we're looking at more of a smaller school, Patagonia Union High School, they have done some really great things and been our FAFSA champions in the past. Just having that one-on-one support and showing that even if you have a smaller senior class size, you can do some great one-on-one conversations and work with these students to get them to complete this critical application.
So, Julie, how does FAFSA completion correlate with college enrollment and success rates in Arizona? Because I'm sure that there is some kind of a correlation.
Absolutely. Research shows that students who complete the FAFSA are 84% more likely to enroll in a post-secondary education immediately after high school. And we really see that when we look at our college-going rates. So to put things in perspective, in 2022, 46% of high school seniors completed the FAFSA. So that was 2022 before the FAFSA fiasco happened and there was technical glitches happening to that form. But when we look at that same class of 2022, 48% of those students that graduated high school pursued an education beyond high school. So if we have a 46% FAFSA completion rate and 48 of them pursued some type of education beyond high school, that just shows that direct correlation between a student completing the FAFSA and then going on to some type of education beyond high school when they graduate. We know for many students that complete the FAFSA, they may not go on, they may take a gap year, something may happen, life happens, and they may not pursue immediately after. But, we always try to encourage to tell students, have FAFSA as your safety net, even if you feel like you're not going to go to college. Just have it there so that you have those choices to make in case something happens and you decide, you know what, I want to pursue an education beyond high school. And I don't want to take that gap time to be able to work or take a year off. So I always recommend students complete the FAFSA. But yeah, research does show that it directly correlates. And I think that if Arizona has a higher FAFSA completion rate and we continue to build that momentum every year, we'll see more and more students enrolling in some type of education beyond high school.
So one of the things that you'll often hear when you talk about rural education with rural leaders is that the school is the hub of the community, which means that there is a community that we are operating and partnering with. So what kinds of partnerships with local organizations or businesses or community members is the board pursuing to help with this FAFSA outreach?
Yeah, so this is actually really timely. So we just launched our campaign with the Arizona Cactus League. So the Arizona Cactus League manages the spring training facilities for Arizona. I'm sure many people have partaken in a spring training game. and being able to see a team, come out and play some baseball there. So they have been really supportive with our statewide FAFSA efforts. Their executive director, Bridget Binsbacher, has been a great partner with us to be able to collaborate and build a campaign, which we're actually just kicked off our third year this year, to be able to incentivize high school seniors who complete the FAFSA. So right now, any high school senior who completes the FAFSA can get anywhere from 2 to 4 tickets, free tickets to a spring training game of their choice. So all the student has to do is complete the 25-26 FAFSA application and then go to collegereadyaz.com to complete a form. So we know exactly their information, email, and what games they'd like to attend. And then the Cactus League fulfills those orders so those students can go ahead and attend a spring training game with their friends or family of their choice. As mentioned, Cactus League has been great to be able to incentivize students for completing the FAFSA. They've also been great champions and partners to be able to promote FAFSA completion. So we're really excited for that partnership. The other partner that we have been coordinating with is Cox Communications. Cox Communications has been a really great partner to help elevate the message of FAFSA completion. So over the past few years, we have partnered with them and our Arizona FAFSA Coalition on developing statewide messaging, statewide social media campaigns. So that way we can promote FAFSA, what it is, why it's important, and statewide resources. So we're continuing that partnership with Cox Communications again, and we are very happy to be able to, spread out this information to more students and families across the state, whether it be on a segment for TV, whether it be on social media, whether it be a print type of article promoting FAFSA completion. They have been really great partners. And then, of course, our Arizona FAFSA Coalition. So this is a coalition, as mentioned, of a group that we have close to 80 members now. All of our post-secondary institutions, community colleges, state governmental officials are all participating in this because we all believe that the importance of FAFSA. We all work together to help elevate the message of FAFSA, and we work directly with the governor's office to establish a FAFSA completion goal every year. Our goal this year is to reach 40%, with the ultimate goal to reach that 40% before March so that we can have a stretch goal. But I think we're well on our way with, close to 16% of students just after the first 6 weeks completing their FAFSA. We're able to work together and achieve that goal with all these partnerships. And of course, this fun incentive with some spring training tickets. I think students like it. In the previous years, we've had thousands of students qualify, and it's helped move the needle in FAFSA completion. So I think it's a unique thing that Arizona has to offer.
Yeah, very fun. So Julie, you mentioned social media. So can you talk a little bit about, because students are on their phones as well as, I am too, adults are also on their phones. But can you talk a little bit about how social media is playing and connecting with students and their families?
Absolutely. When we look at communicating with students, I think probably social media is the more effective way. So at College Ready, which is our website that we created at the Arizona Board of Regents to really be a centralized hub for all things college going. So not only FAFSA, but helping students choose really what type of path they want to go on, information about our 3 state universities, information about just applying to college in general. So with that, we created social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit's also available as well. So this is a way that we can connect with students. Our amazing team creates content that we help promote FAFSA, help promote college going initiatives, statewide workshops that are happening. So I think it's been a really great way to be able to communicate with students. So we continue to post new content that's engaging. And then also, we get a lot of questions from students on Instagram account, just asking general FAFSA questions. So it's a great way to communicate with students as well. And I think, as this generation of students is more on their phones, that's really the way to catch them. It's not through necessarily an email that they may not read because they're probably bombarded with tons of emails that they get all the time. But if you have something on social media that's, catching and engaging and entertaining and informative, we found that that's really a way to capture the audience of students and also maybe some parents as well who may be on social media or some type of, group that may see it and may forward the message over in addition to traditional, print, podcast is another big one.
Yeah.
That's a way to get that information out there. So any type of, various channels of media, we're definitely all for it. And really just at this point, trying to see what sticks and what can help, share that message out to students and families about FAFSA and statewide resources available.
Mm. So families that are just starting this process might be a little bit overwhelmed. There's a lot out there in terms of resources and questions that they might have. So what advice would you give to either students or their families that just are feeling out of their depth with the FAFSA process?
I would say there is help, and please do not feel overwhelmed at all. I think, again, there's that misconception that this application is very overwhelming. It's going to take hours to complete, when really it only takes students typically 30 minutes to complete the application, if that. And just know that there's help and support available. So again, I'm just going to put another plug for collegereadyaz.com. We have statewide resources available. So if a student or family wants to text, wants to call, wants to set up a virtual appointment or meet in person with somebody who can help them through the process, we have that available. And all these resources are absolutely free. And we have them available, 24/7. If they want to text, we have, phone calls available Monday through Friday, virtual appointments we have available during the week and on weekends. And then, of course, if they want to just meet in person, we have that available too. Many of our college access and universities have open hours where students can go ahead and make that appointment, whether it be in person or virtual or by phone. So just know that you're not alone in this process. We have tons of people to help and support, and it should not be a stressful process. It is not at all. We just want to make sure that, that you have the support and resources available, and to just reach out. Even if you feel awkward asking questions, please do not. That is one of the big things we see a lot of students saying, oh, I should probably know this, but it's really no, because this is your first time completing the application. Even if you're renewing it, that sometimes the form changes. So no question is, a dumb question to ask. We just want to encourage anybody who may even be, interested to learn more about FAFSA, to learn about the application, even if they're not ready to complete the form yet, to just have questions about what it is. If they have a student that may not be a high school senior, but maybe in a lower grade, even 8th grade, and want to learn about what it is, or even for themselves, if they're, an adult looking to go back to college or looking to even start their education because they just went straight to the workforce. There's no age limit to FAFSA either. So, just trying to get that out there, that these supports are not only for high school seniors, but statewide. So just know that there's support no matter income, what age you are, whatever your goals are. If you're looking to stay in state, out of state, we just want to help support and, have that support and partnership available there for people to go ahead and utilize.
So Julie, you mentioned that there's some resources and workshops that are available in Arizona for families that need assistance. So can you talk a little bit more about that? And then specifically about rural families, potentially travel is a barrier for families that might need to travel to where the workshop might be. How are you addressing those needs that families might have?
Absolutely. In regards to your question about workshops, we do have all of our statewide workshops posted on College Ready AZ. So if anybody wants to go ahead and go to the FAFSA page, they can see any of the upcoming in-person workshops that are happening and go ahead and register. But we definitely partner with members of our coalition to host these workshops throughout the state. Knowing that not all the workshops on here may be included because there are just so many going on at the high school level, at the community level. So if there is, if you don't see a workshop located near you, I would definitely recommend having people reach out to us so they can go ahead and let us know to host a workshop that would be near them. We're always looking for new locations to host workshops. We try to incorporate at least one in each county. But if you're seeing one on here that you would like for us to host in your own community, at your high school, whatever it may be, please reach out to us. And that way we can go ahead and get that set up with our college access partners to be able to support the students and families that may be in attendance there.
Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of them. So it would be hard you would be hard pressed not to find something that you might be able to access. And then having the benefit of the one-to-one assistance if it's needed and desired in that virtual setting is helpful too. So one of the things that we hear a lot about in rural communities is aligned to workforce development and how students that have work skills can potentially stay in their community and be a member of that community and still earning a living wage. So can you talk a little bit about the long-term benefits of financial aid to Arizona's workforce and economy, especially in our rural communities?
Absolutely. Well, when a student completes the FAFSA, they go on to pursue an education, a post-secondary education. And when they get that degree, they're not only making a higher income, they are being able to provide more to their community. They're also being able to provide to the economy more within their communities. They're being able to be employed within organizations or companies within their communities. There's tons of businesses that are opening in Arizona. It's booming. So being able to have a degree and to be able to be employed by those businesses, to be able to give back to your community. We know that people with a college degree pay more taxes because they have higher incomes. They're giving back more in charitable donations. They're giving back more as possibly alumni to universities that they're attending. And if they stay in state, that just builds up a better network for those colleges, even community colleges, to have that alumni network there. And I think when we look at rural communities, if they stay within their rural community and they work and they go to school there, they're just investing more in that community. They're also building that college going atmosphere that I keep talking about, because they're the ones kind of setting a pathway so that to show, I went to this college, I now work at this place, to be able to change that generational, increase that generational wealth so that their children can see that, and it just moves on upward. And they get better, have better jobs, and just have a more educated workforce within their communities. So I think when we think about the FAFSA, it's not just an application that opens doors to financial aid, but it also opens doors to opportunities. Once a student does complete their degree, and then it opens doors for that community to show that they're investing in that student's investing in their community, and then that business invests in that person, that employee that they're hiring. So it's just a cycle that happens there. And, we know that, Arizona's attainment rates aren't, they're fairly low, just like our FAFSA completion rate. So we want to increase those as well, just so that we have a more educated workforce. And it could just be, getting a certificate program. It doesn't have to be getting a bachelor's degree program. It can be getting an associate's degree. We just want to make sure that there is an educated workforce so that people have those credentials to be able to get a higher paying job, or to be able to secure that job that they would, like in the field that they're really wanting to pursue. So it's just so much more. And I think the FAFSA is just one critical step to that. And it's one stepping stone on their journey to their post-secondary education, but it's a really critical one. And I think it will, as we see more students complete the FAFSA, it's going to be a trickle effect, a domino effect to show, more students are going to college, more students are, getting employed here in Arizona. The economy, there's more businesses coming because we have a more employable workforce, and it just builds up the state more as well. Arizona's, one of the largest states that people are coming here. So why not invest in our students and have them be that educated workforce instead of outsourcing much of the work?
Mm-hmm. Well said. So, Julie, you mentioned it several times throughout our conversation, but if listeners wanted more information or assistance with the FAFSA, where do they go?
Yes, so they can go to collegereadyaz.com. So we have a FAFSA page that is on there. We have the Cactus League spring training tickets on there as well. We have information about our 3 state institutions. We have information about how to plan for college, how to afford, how to apply, attending. And then you can also, we have contact information. So if you would like, as mentioned, a FAFSA workshop in your area and you don't see one, if you want additional resources or just have a FAFSA question, you can definitely reach out to us on that collegereadyaz.com site. And that way we can go ahead and make sure that we are, providing those resources on the website. And that way we can answer any questions that folks may have as well.
So I'm going to ask you the question that I ask all of my guests, which is, what does the phrase rural advantage mean to you?
Yeah. I have really been thinking about this. So I really wanted to have a really, thoughtful answer here. But I think in terms of FAFSA, when we look at rural advantage, it's that close-knit community. It is that, being able to have one-on-one conversations with students and families, being able to have that sense of community. I think that is definitely an advantage when it comes to FAFSA. It's not something that you're just sending out an email to share or a handout. It's something that you can actually have those sit down one-on-one conversations. And I also just think the sense of community in rural Arizona is phenomenal. When I travel to rural schools, it's definitely a different culture. It's definitely a different dynamic. It's definitely something more of a partnership with so many organizations in their community that can easily reach out and have that support. And I just think that it's definitely an advantage that I wish that many of our schools within Arizona had, just having that one-on-one support or having that dedicated, staff member within a high school wearing so many hats that they can speak to, anywhere from counseling to FAFSA to teaching an English class to being the administrator. There's just so many, I think, advantages there. And I think as we work more and more with rural schools to increase FAFSA completion, their willingness to partner and have that close-knit community and just willingness to help make their students, better and help make their students' goals achievable and help them provide resources. We're always welcomed with open arms. And I think it's really great, and just having that friendliness. And so I really think it's just that advantage of that close-knit community and that willingness to always be there to support, that community in whatever way it is, and open arms to be able to also invite others who may want to come in to help support and lift up that community and help their students through processes like the FAFSA or families with that to help really scale the work. So I really enjoy working with our rural schools and rural communities. And I just really hope that, we can continue these great partnerships and build upon them, and really excited to, as mentioned, expand our FAFSA peer coach program into many of these schools.
That is a great answer.
Thanks.
So, Julie, is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like our listeners to know?
The only thing I would just say is that, with collegereadyaz.com, we have tons of resources on there. So we are, just know that students and families are not alone in the FAFSA process. We just want to make sure that people know that there are resources available. People know what the FAFSA is, know how critical this application is, and know that it can open doors to pay for an education. So really just stressing the importance to, if you're a high school senior, to complete the application, even if you're on the fence about you're not quite sure where you want to attend in the fall, complete it. And that way it's an application that's done. And again, you can make that choice to decide, where you want to go to college a little later, but you have this application done. And the other thing is just make sure that you're also applying to college too. The FAFSA is a financial aid application. It's not an admissions application. So making sure that students are applying to college in addition to completing the FAFSA. That way they can go ahead and make some comparison with their award letters to see which institution they want to attend. And we're there to support as well. So if any student has any questions on comparing financial aid letters, what type of aid should I take out? We are there to support as well, to help them make, to help them read that award letter or decide exactly what's the difference between a subsidized or unsubsidized loan. We're there to help support. So please feel free to reach out, whether it be by phone, text, email, whatever it may be. We just want to make sure that we are providing resources to students statewide and families to be able to increase FAFSA completion for the state, but most importantly, to make sure that students complete this because it's going to be beneficial to them in the long end.
Well, Julie, thanks for spending time with me today. This was important information that I know our rural students and their families are really going to appreciate. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to The Rural Scoop. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, or even leave us a comment. And be sure to follow on Twitter at Dr. Sadorf. That's Dr_SADORF, so that you never miss a new release. You can also check out previous episodes of The Scoop wherever you get your podcasts. Production support for The Rural Scoop is provided by Chattanooga Podcast Studios. Find out more at ChattanoogaPodcastStudios.com. See you next time for more great discussions about rural education.